Chapter 8.6, you'll notice we're still factoring. Specifically today we're going to be factoring trinomials. So day before when we were factoring, the expressions only looked like x squared plus bx, right? We only had two terms, and we would look for what those terms had in common. We would look for the greatest common factor, and then that greatest common factor could be factored out. It could be divided out. So in the problems that we're looking at today, the expressions that we're looking at today, we're adding a constant back here, some number that now instead of a binomial, instead of two terms, we'll have a trinomial. We'll have three terms. And then before we're done, we'll be solving equations that involve a trinomial. And we're still going to set those things equal to 0. We'll do an example or two, or I may just throw one at you and let you see what you can do. But let's remember something before we get started. Let's remember FOIL. Let's remember fondly how we can take a binomial times a binomial, and either by distributing or by FOIL, we'll get the same answer. But I want to show you this intermediate step, and then what our final answer looks like. This is kind of a pattern that we're looking for, so that we can unpack, so we can undistribute once we get to a trinomial. So here we go. Remember, FOIL is first, outer, inner, last. So first times first, we would get x times x, or x squared. Outer, x times 4 would be 4x. Inner would be 3 times x, or 3x. And then last times last, 4 times 3 would be plus 12. Okay. Now, our next step, when we were doing FOIL, we would go ahead and simplify these terms in the middle because they are like terms. And so our final answer would be x squared plus 7x plus 12. And here's what I want you to notice. Notice where that 12 come from. That positive 12 is the product of the 3 and the 4. Okay? That positive 12 is a product of the positive 3 and the positive 4. And that 7 is the sum of the positive 3 and the positive 4. Okay? That's not going to change. When we're factoring trinomials in this form, we're looking for factors that multiply together to give us that last term, and combine together, add together to give us the middle coefficient. So let's do one here. X squared plus 11x plus 24. I'm looking for what multiplies to give me a positive 24, and then adds together to give me a positive 11. So either you see what those numbers are already, or you just start listing all of the factors of 24. Okay? All of the things that multiply together to give me a positive 24. So 1 times 24. Now if I add those together too, I get positive 11? No, so it's not 1 times 24. What about 2 times 12? Also gives me 24, but when I add them together, I don't get 11. 3 times 8 is 24, and it does add together to give me a positive 11. So it multiplies together to give me the 24, and it adds together to give me the positive 11. Okay, so 3 and 8 are the numbers that I'm looking for. Let's go back real quick and notice where those numbers go. Okay, so 12 was 4 times 3, and 7 was 4 plus 3. And notice where the 4 and the 3 are. Okay, both of these expressions started with x times x because that's where the x squared comes from. The 12 and the 7 come from the 3 times 4 and the 3 plus 4. So this trinomial factors as x and x. And then since this is a positive 3 and a positive 8, it's a positive 3 and a positive 8. And so this factors as x plus 3 times x plus 8. Okay. Now, pause, think about it, do what you need to do. Product and sum. And that's what happens. So let me give you a chance to do one, and we'll see how this one goes. 1 times 9 is 9, and then 1 plus 9 is 10. So this one worked out really quick. X plus 1, x plus 9 is factored form. Now, if you don't believe me, or for some reason think the pattern doesn't work, you can always take the binomial times the binomial and redistribute, refoil, multiply. Okay, first times first is x squared, outer, inner, last. Those two add together, x squared plus 10x plus 9. Okay, that pattern did work. Okay, so product, that gives you 9, and added together that gives you 10. Let's try another one. I want you to notice though on this one, the middle term is not positive, the middle term is negative. So when you get ready to add your two numbers together, okay, you need to get a -8 when you get done. So I'll do this one, and then I'll throw another one at you here in a minute that'll be a little bit different. So I'm looking for something that multiplies to give me a positive 12. Okay, so 1 times 12, that doesn't add to give me 8. 2 times 6. 2 times 6 almost adds to give me 8. But when 2 and 6 get added, they give me a positive 8. I need to get a -8. So what about -2 and -6? Does that still multiply to give me a positive 12? Yes. Can I add them together? -2 plus a -6. Can I add those together to get a -8? Yes. So then the numbers I'm looking for are -2 and -6. So this factors as x minus 2, x minus 6. And that's factored form. All right. Here's another one. I'm going to let you do this one, but I do want to point out that this time you're trying to get a negative product. Okay, so if I'm going to get a negative product, I'm going to have a positive and a negative number. But notice you're trying to get a positive sum in the middle. So you try this one. All right, so numbers that multiply to give me 15. 1 times -15. But I can't add those together to get a positive 2. What does happen when I add those together? I get a -14. Well, I don't want a negative number in the middle. I want a positive number. So what about a -1 times a 15? Still gives me -15. This time they add together to give me a positive 14. So still not what I need. But notice that my bigger number is positive and my sum is positive. So hint, hint, hint. If I'm trying to get a positive sum, my larger number needs to be positive. I'm still looking for numbers that multiply to give me 15, -15. What about -3 times a positive 5? If I multiply those together, I do get -15. If I add those together, I do get a positive 2. So -3 and positive 5 are my magic numbers. And there is my factored form. Again, if I'm not sure that that's what it is, I can refoil and check. Follow the pattern, follow the pattern, follow the pattern. Product of the last number that adds together to give you the middle number. Okay, one more. This time they're both negative. See what you can do. All right, so let's just start at the top here now. I'm noticing that we have a negative number in the middle, and based on that last problem we did, right, if I'm going to add two numbers together and my answer be negative, then the negative number has to be bigger. So I'm going to do 1 times a -18, but when I add those together, I don't get -7. a 2 times a negative 9, okay, that's negative 18. And when I add a 2 and a negative 7, a 2 and a negative 9, I do get negative 7. So those are the numbers I'm looking for. Positive 2 and a negative 9. X plus 2, x minus 9. Product of negative 18 adds together to give me a negative 9. 2 times negative 9 is negative 18. 2 plus a negative 9 is negative 7. Now our final goal is still to get to this place where we can solve an equation. And in solving an equation, I need to be able to factor a trinomial. Product of negative 18 that adds together to give me a positive 3 in the middle. This one's yours. Ready, go. Your factors ought to be x plus 6, x minus 3. Now we're still set equal to 0. So now that we're here, you tell me what your solutions are. X equals what and what? Okay. So if x plus 6 set equal to 0 would give us negative 6, x minus 3 equals 0 would give us x equals positive 3, and those should be your two answers.